The handcuffs clicked before sunrise. Michelle Hadley stared at concrete and wondered, how do you prove you didn't write a single word? Emails she'd never seen, ads she never placed, and a stranger at her door. The internet had become a weapon. A pregnant newlywed dialed 911, voice shaking. Men were trying to break in, lured by a rape fantasy ad. The ad named Michelle Hadley. Patrol cars fanned through Anaheim streets. A text on a screen had become a knock at a real door. Officers followed the breadcrumb trail. Gmail threats, Craigslist replies, screenshots printed and stapled. Each page spelled danger. Each line carried Michelle's name. The badge, the binder, the cuffs. Facts seemed to march in only one direction. By sunrise, headline writers had a villain and a victim. Michelle's mugshot glowed blue on a TV. Words like stalker and life in prison scrolled beneath. Fear travels fast. Corrections crawl. But buried in the data, a contradiction waited. Tiny, precise, indifferent. A number here, a timestamp there. The truth had an alibi if someone dared to look past the panic and follow the wires. To know Michelle, start with the ordinary. Marketing professional, book lover, a condo bought with pride. She met a federal agent. They got engaged. A key, a ring, a future. Until trust cracked and paperwork outlived love. They broke up. The condo became a battlefield of signatures and liens. Emails turned formal, then cold. Into that space stepped a new bride, Angela Maria Diaz, who would soon claim a shadow was stalking her. Angela told police she was pregnant with twins, terrified, harassed by Michelle. Threats, she said, arrived in waves. A restraining order, then another. Judges stamped urgency between the lines of fear. Then came the ads. Rape fantasy, explicit, dangerous. Reply here. Strangers wrote back. Addresses shared. A digital dare placed like a mine on a public sidewalk. And the name on it was Michelle's. One night, a man tried her door. Another, a knock at the wrong hour. Angela called 911 repeatedly, voice quaking, breath brittle. Each call tightened the narrative. A predator with a familiar name. IP logs, screenshots, a thumb drive. Amid rising anxiety, caution thinned. The simple story was cruelly elegant. A jilted ex had weaponized the web. A warrant slid free like a blade. Michelle was arrested, charged with stalking, criminal threats, and more. The worst counts carried years she could not count. In an instant, her name became paperwork, her life reduced to a jumpsuit and a number. Bail soared, headlines hardened. A courtroom gallery leaned forward as prosecutors recited emails vibrating with hate. On the defense table, Michelle's hands clenched around a pen she could not steady.
Jail time grinds into silence. Nights lengthen, fluorescent moons that never set. Michelle learned the grammar of survival. Count steps, fold time, hold breath. Outside, the case ballooned without her. Yet beneath the panic, anomalies flickered. Why did some threats originate miles from Michelle's life? Why did the grammar bend, the timing misalign? A few investigators paused, then doubled back. Digital forensics stepped in, quiet, patient. Every message wears a fingerprint, headers, hops, handshakes. Somewhere in the path from keyboard to target, truth leaves a trace it cannot help but leave. A login from a home network that was not Michelle's. Another from a workplace network linked to Angela. In oceans of noise, two signals rose. Ordinary IPs, deadly in their certainty. Craigslist turned over server logs. Gmail yielded metadata under court order. Piece by piece, the alleged voice of Michelle sounded more like someone standing across Angela's own kitchen floor. Then, a 911 call more terrifying than the rest. Angela reported an attack inside her home, marks around her neck, a chemical burn sting. She said the stalker's fantasy had broken the door between words and flesh.
Paramedics photographed injuries. An officer wrote of a garrote. Fear ratcheted to maximum. Michelle's case file thickened, and any dissenting voice risked sounding reckless, even cruel. But new tests spoke softly. Hospital labs raised questions. Pregnancy claims didn't match. A neighbor remembered Angela alone before sirens arrived. Small doubts tapped the brakes of a runaway train.
Investigators replayed patterns. Threats at times Michelle was verifiably elsewhere. A voice shifting tone mid-sentence. Devices hopping between networks with unlikely convenience. Coincidence shrank to a dot. And then came the MAC address. Unique, intimate, like a serial number printed in electricity. It connected devices in Angela's orbit to messages sent in Michelle's name. The masquerade flickered. Michelle's public defender stared at the new stack. An alternate map, a counter melody, a whisper possibility. She might be innocent, and the case might be upside down. Outside the courtroom, cameras still waited for a villain. Inside, a motion for reconsideration inched forward. Evidence, like water, kept finding the hairline cracks. Investigators reenacted the posts. Could a stranger really be guided to an exact door from those words? They traced routes, timelines, cell pings. The geometry didn't close unless someone inside drew the line. Narrative might be false, but turning a story around requires more than doubt. It requires proof strong enough to reverse gravity in a room built to keep it steady. Back to the apartment router. Logs showed late-night bursts that overlapped with threats. A single slip, forgetting to mask an origin, can unwind an illusion stitched across months. Angela's claims widened. Miscarriages, cancer, conspiracies. Medical records trailed, thin as mist. The forensics did not bend with them. Math has no bedside manner. An analyst lined up emails by diction. Threats from Michelle carried idioms used elsewhere by Angela. Typos don't lie. Punctuation has habits. Even fury keeps a fingerprint. 8 hours into a comparison, a sigh. A Gmail recovery phone number pointed home. It was as simple and damning as a key left in the lock. The case didn't creak, it pivoted. At the jail, the air tasted different. A guard called Michelle's name for a legal visit. Paper slid across the divider. Thin, unbelievable. Oxygen on page. Recant or rush? A reputation of caution balanced against the weight of a person's life. The choice was to turn, and to turn publicly. The motion landed. Charges against Michelle dismissed. Words that had once hunted her now became her rescue. The steel world opened. The sky was again a sky. The DA used the rare word, exonerated. Not insufficient evidence, but innocence. Reporters scribbled, the nation blinked. A friend hugged her gently, as if joy might shatter. New warrants turned outward. Detectives returned to the same doors with different intentions. The mirror reversed. The story faced the storyteller. Angela was arrested. In the sterile light of a booking room, a plan that had bent reality met the inventory of consequences. Charges, cuffs, a holding cell that looks like every holding cell. In court, prosecutors detailed the scheme. Fake accounts, staged distress, coaxed strangers, self-made threats. It wasn't just a lie, it was a labyrinth built to trap one person forever. Angela Maria Diaz later pleaded guilty to multiple felonies tied to the frame-up. Years of supervised punishment followed. The court record, dry and dense, wrote a sentence the world could finally read. Attention widened to others in the orbit. Lawsuits and federal filings examined whether influence and badges shaped the storm. Allegations traveled a colder road. Documents, depositions, federal halls. In 2022, a federal grand jury indicted Ian Diaz, then a deputy U.S. Marshal, on charges alleging a role in the cyberstalking scheme. The case shifted venues, but the question stayed the same. Who wrote the story? Across motions and hearings, the spine of the saga held.
A digital forgery, a real prison, a public reckoning. The law turned, slowly, toward the people it had failed. Michelle stepped back into a life remade. Sleep returned in stitches. Crowds made her flinch, then less. She learned new rituals. Log every password, save every receipt, listen for the floor under her feet. She sued. Civil rights have paperwork too. A federal lawsuit translated pain into paragraphs and demanded the one currency a system understands: accountability in writing and dollars that acknowledge harm. Outside, a different fight brewed. How to teach police, jurors, and judges to read the internet like a crime scene. New trainings, new checklists. Verify, corroborate, pause. Panic makes poor evidence. The human brain loves stories with sharp edges. Scorned ex, fragile mother, invasive strangers. But justice requires a slower appetite, one that admits data can hum a different tune than drama.
Climax came not with a slam, but a click. Charges dismissed, plea entered, indictments unsealed. A chorus of small sounds that, together, unmade a lie and rebuilt a life, however imperfectly. For Michelle, victory felt like the absence of pressure, the return of corners to rooms. A meal with friends lasted an hour and not a lifetime. Laughter sounded ordinary again. Ordinary is underrated. Yet the legacy is heavier than any single case. A false narrative rode the rails of our new world. Screens, clicks, cheap identities. The same rails also carried the proof that broke it. What protects us now is literacy. Technical, legal, human. Can you read an email skeleton? Can you stop a headline at the door? Can you ask for time when the world shouts for speed? Michelle's name is no longer a cautionary tale. It is a demand. Believe evidence over fear. Demand proof over panic. And never forget that a human being can vanish behind a keyboard and reappear with the truth. This story has edges that cut and a center that heals. A woman was framed by pixels. She was freed by them too. The lesson is not mercy or wrath. It's patience. Let the numbers talk and then listen.